If you're like me, you really resonate with these words that Reverend Joseph shares with us every Sunday. This is a new day. This is a new day full of sound and light and expectation. This day has been waiting for you. This day has been waiting especially for you, to embrace you, to guide you. This day has been waiting with open arms just for you. This is the day we have been given. Let's not waste it. Come now and let us worship together. Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Lapidus. I'm serving as the worship associate this morning, and I welcome you to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Youngstown. Whether you are here in the sanctuary with me this morning, joining in on Zoom, watching on Facebook Live, or at a later time, I welcome you locally, regionally, nationally, and globally. This morning, we are pleased to welcome the Reverend Christina Spade into our virtual pulpit. Reverend Christina is the minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs, Florida. Many of you will remember that she served UUYO as our ministerial intern and sabbatical minister. Christina was ordained in 2018 by us and the UU Church of Kent. I'm so glad that you're with us this morning, Reverend Christina. And we have a few announcements this morning. We're going to begin with Marguerite.
Good morning, everyone. I'm just announcing that this is the final week for us to collect gifts for Big Brothers, Big Sisters. As you know, if you've been reading the weekly update the last few weeks, we are collecting gifts for the children and families in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, and UUYO has done this for us for the last several years. So if you are at home or here in the sanctuary, you can talk to me if you're here, of course, about that. If you're at home, there is a link in the chat box where you can reach me. Gifts are due by Sunday, December 5th. If you're going to be at the church, you can drop them off here, or otherwise we can make other arrangements to pick them up. We appreciate your assistance, and thank you once again.
Additionally, there will be no foreign policy discussion this afternoon. That program will return in January. And we will be celebrating the winter solstice on Tuesday, December 21st at 4:30 p.m. out in the patio with rituals, song, hot cider, cocoa, and s'mores around the fire. And we have 2 brand new patio heaters. Contact our DRE, Kathleen Hogue, to find out if you can help or if you'd like more details. From now until Christmas Eve, Ohio Can, Change Addiction Now Mahoning County, is accepting monetary gifts and gift cards to support families in recovery during the holidays. See Hope Lavrant Moran for more information about this important program. And lastly, for those of you who are in the building this morning, you are permitted to go downstairs into Channing Hall and walk around on our newly refinished floors. And now we have a testimonial from Lisbeth White in support of our pledge drive.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm actually standing in for Amber Munger, one of our newer members who actually is from Youngstown but lives in the Dominican Republic. So she had been scheduled to speak this morning but had to, she's not able to attend, so I'm filling in. So basically we're at the very end of our drive. Technically it's over. Many of you have stepped up and pledged, and we are very, very grateful to you, the small team of people that organize this pledge drive. As many of you know, we exist solely because of the generosity of members and friends. It is what makes it possible for us to be a church, to have a physical space, to have just a stunning full-time minister and staff and our part-time staff. So anyway, so the news is good in some ways and not in others. As of right now, we've heard from 31 people who have committed a pledge for 2022. A pledge is just a promise of what you think you are able to give to the church financially during the year of 2022. It's a promise that can be amended if your situation changes. So after 3 years of keeping our goal exactly the same, it's been $140,000 for several years. This year, we have raised it 10% to 154,000 to accommodate our full staffing because we have a director of religious education again. It's simply what it takes to run this church, and if we all pitch in, we can do it. So I guess I have just a couple messages. One is we are asking all of you for a 10% increase in your pledge. This is the first time we've asked that in years. And I encourage you to actually plot it out. Like I have a calculator. My kid's calculator from high school. When I actually looked at what I had pledged last year and did the math of what 10% would be, it was not very much. And I found I was actually able to increase mine more than 10%, comfortably feeling that I can do that. We're not asking anyone to give more than they're able, but we are really asking you to think about it. We have a lot of folks who give automatically through their bank withdrawal. And unless you do anything to change it, it stays the same. So a lot of those figures have stayed the same for years. So we're asking you, and actually we're asking you generally now, but pretty soon we're going to be calling you. So if you don't want to be called by one of us, maybe just proactively do it. So I would say please do go and just do your own math. Can you handle it? I look at what I bring in a week. What can I handle? What can I give to support this incredible community that's welcomed me so warmly? And it's just, you guys are amazing. We're amazing. We're very deserving of our support. But anyway, there's probably, I don't know, I think there's a total of probably 25 or 30 people who are just continuing at the same level. Whereas if you were to raise those amounts by the 10%, it would really help us out. And then there are a lot of people we haven't heard from at all. So please do step up. Contact the office. The other thing that's happened is some people think they've raised their pledges, but that they're actually below what they were last year. So reach out to the office. You can talk to either Sarah King or Louisa Berger, our treasurer. Find out what your pledge is before you think you're raising it 10% and actually you're going down 20. All those little pieces, like I brought up my little change jar. This is the change jar that my daughter started when she came back from her year in Thailand, and it just has quarters and pennies and what have you. And when she comes to visit, we pull this out and we turn it into something fun together. So like if we all bring out our penny jars, this thing is heavy. We can do quite a lot with this budget that we've got. It's a tight budget. Right now, we pretty much have enough for a minister and nothing else. So I don't think you guys really want that, and I know I don't want that. So it's up to us. Please reach out. I'm happy to talk with anyone. Even the concept of pledging, if you grew up unchurched and don't know what it is. I grew up unchurched. I didn't know what it was. Now it's a really important ritual in my week to give thoughtfully and with intent. So anyway, that's it. That's my testimonial. Thank you all for being this wonderful church.
The theme of the latest meeting of our starting point discussion group was opening to life's gifts. Most fitting theme for the Thanksgiving holiday, from whatever perspective you choose to view it. As we come together over today's chalice, I was struck by the appropriateness of a reading we shared then, the summary of recent UU history as we hold it. And I quote, "The path and practice of opening to life's gifts is central to Unitarian Universalists, but historically, we've had a complicated relationship with it. Our historic embrace of individualism and our focus on human potential and goodness versus depravity and sin has led us to emphasize the power and independence of human beings. For instance, we've stressed that we have the power to bend the arc of the universe towards justice and possess enormous abilities of self-determination. This emphasis on humans as independent and self-determining actors has, at times, crowded out a focus on humans as dependent creatures who are recipients of so many unearned and unexpected gifts. This is changing. You see it most closely in the ways we talk about our relationship with life. Instead of emphasizing our independence from the forces of life, we now stress our interdependence with them. Instead of approaching life as something we bend or a stage for our self-development, we have begun to reclaim traditional concepts that open us up to the giftedness of life. For instance, you will hear many UUs talk about a life being full of grace, gifts we don't earn, expect, or deserve, and even a love that will not let us go. In short, opening to life's gifts is about leaning into gratitude. It's not about allowing ourselves to get so caught up in our society's obsession with striving, proving, and accumulating that we forget we've already arrived and are already surrounded by innumerable treasures. Ultimately, opening to life's gifts is about waking to life's gifts. It's about reminding ourselves over and over again that life is not a game that we're here to win. It is not a foe waiting to pounce or take what we have. Instead, it is a gracious companion waiting for us to notice all it has already offered us. We light today's chalice in our individual hearts and in the sanctuary in celebration of life's gifts that have brought us together.
The Secret of Saying Thanks by Douglas Wood and Greg Shedd. The world is full of secrets, gentle, shy things that some people know and some don't. The best secrets are the ones that make us happy. Perhaps you'd like to know a secret, one of the happiest ones of all. You will surely find it for yourself one day. You'll discover it all on your own, maybe when you least expect it. You might discover the secret at dawn, a morning like all other mornings. The sun climbs over the edge of the earth and begins to fill the world with light and warmth. It touches your cheek with a golden ray, and you say softly, simply, thanks. You might discover the secret when you find yourself under an old tree and grateful for cool shade on a hot day. Stay a while beneath its limbs, remembering there the good and gentle gifts of all trees all over the earth. Forests to explore, leaves to sing in the breeze, and roots to hold the earth in place, and simple lessons on how to grow. You may find the secret when you hear a bird sing and feel grateful for the gentle music of the skies, for flash of wing and brightness of feathers, for the good company of graceful creatures who dance upon the wind. Maybe you'll find the secret in your own home, sitting around a table with people you love, giving thanks for good food and the good earth that gave it, for the many hands that prepared it, and for family to share it. Perhaps one day you'll feel the secret when someone is holding your hand, or kissing away tears, or hugging you close, or reading you a story, or tucking you into bed at night and reminding you to say your prayers. Or it might be in your bedtime prayer itself, as you say thanks for the sun and moon and stars and rocks and trees and flowers and waters and birds and animals and all those who love you and the love you feel for them. For here is the secret, if you've not already guessed it. The heart that gives thanks is a happy one, for we cannot feel thankful and unhappy at the same time. The more we say thanks, the more we find to be thankful for. And the more we find to be thankful for, the happier we become. We don't give thanks because we're happy. We are happy because we give thanks.
I am thankful for food. I am thankful for the earth. I am grateful for my family and pets. I am hopeful for good grades for the rest of the year.
I am grateful for a loving family, and I am hopeful for the future.
Is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Each month, we donate all loose cash and unmarked checks put in the offering plate to a nonprofit organization whose missions and actions are consistent with the UU principles and the mission of our church. For the month of November, our organization is the Community Volunteer Council. CVC was organized in 1979 and has been devoted to helping the low-income families of Trumbull County since then. What began as a small circle of church women soon evolved into the Community Volunteer Council and became a united effort to provide food, clothing, and household items for people in need. Each month, CVC distributes groceries to our Warren neighbors. Last year, CVC served 892 families through food distribution, and 1,453 clients shopped in their clothing center. The CVC also organizes special holiday events to give away meals and toys for children. So those of you on Zoom will see a link in the chat box with directions on how to donate to CVC. Those of you in the sanctuary may place your donation in the basket at the back when you leave. And now we are grateful that this offering supports the life of Youngstown, the Mahoning Valley, and the wider world.
Our meditation words this morning come from Tanya Marquez. Do not fear agitation, Agitation is the rhythm of life itself, to be put into motion, to be stirred. Do not fear the movements that decenter what you always thought permanent. You carry within you the center of your understanding, the compass to show you the way. Carry with you the love that will hold you, the vision that will guide you, the relationships to all beings and the world that will ground you. Go in peace and in gentle agitation to stir this world to the side of love. The reading for today comes from David White. This is from Consolations, the solace, nourishment, and underlying meaning of everyday words, and is an excerpt from his piece on anger. Anger is the deepest form of compassion for another, for the world, for the self, for the life, for the body, for family, and for all our ideals, all vulnerable and all possibly about to be hurt. Stripped of physical imprisonment and violent reaction, anger is the purest form of care. The internal living flame of anger always illuminates what we belong to, what we wish to protect, and what we are willing to hazard ourselves for. What we have named as anger on the surface is the violent outer response to our own inner powerlessness, a powerlessness connected to such a profound sense of rawness and care that it can find no proper outer body or identity or voice or way of life to hold it. Our anger breaks to the surface most often through our feeling there is something profoundly wrong with this powerlessness and vulnerability. Anger too often finds its voice strangely through our incoherence and through our inability to speak. But anger in its pure state is the measure of the way we are implicated in a world and made vulnerable through love in all its specifics. A daughter, a house, a family, an enterprise, a land, or a colleague. But anger truly felt at its center is the essence, is the essential living flame of being fully alive and fully here. It is a quality to be followed to its source, to be prized, to be tended, and an invitation to finding a way to bring that source fully into the world through making the mind clearer and more generous, the heart more compassionate, and the body larger and strong enough to hold it. What we call anger on the surface only serves to define its true underlying quality by being a complete and absolute mirror opposite of its true internal essence. I have learned to love that edge of fall to winter, that transition time as leaves would have fallen if I were living in Ohio. Here in Florida, they just stay on the trees. This time after Thanksgiving, as I've learned over the years, to let it be a time of making some space, letting things ease toward other holidays as the darkness deepens. It's a time that I can feel myself setting aside for reflection. We did not celebrate liturgical seasons when I was growing up unchurched, but as part of my spiritual exploration in seminary, I leaned into learning about both Advent and Lent. Advent spans the 4 Sundays before Christmas, and so starts today. Some of you may be familiar with the lighting of an Advent candle wreath, often with 3 purple candles and 1 rose one for each Sunday of the month. Undoubtedly, you've seen an Advent calendar of some kind or another as well. Chocolate, cheese, beer, or alcohol, or made for celebrating just about anything. Advent is an interesting time as it speaks to multiple narratives at once. First, in the context of the season and the coming of Christmas, it is a way to invoke that feeling of the arrival of a baby, specifically for Christians, Jesus. Second, it is a season that only could have begun following the birth of Jesus and following his death. Also invites Christians to practice living as much within their religious values as possible, with emphasis on welcoming the stranger, generosity of spirit and wealth, kindness, and so on. For some, this second piece is also reframed as a way to help usher in Christ's second coming, the believed return of the Savior to this broken world. Advent is the start of the Christian year, and the season culminates with the birth of Jesus. While secular commercialized culture uses this as a time to amp up on all things holiday and spending related, the many parties and grand dinners and other events, for the spiritual and religious, it's exactly the opposite, a time to slow down, reflect, for some, a time of fasting, of holding the history of the last year and however much time gently, as we look forward to new possibilities, as we open to life's gifts. Because of the ways it mirrors the anticipation of a coming child, in some ways we might even think of Advent as a kind of nesting period where we clean things up, make space for the thing we're waiting for or expecting or hoping to come. Except that we are doing all of this internally, at least as much as externally. We might use this time to give thanks for the wonder of our lives. We might use it to make amends for things that have missed the mark of our hopes and aspirations. We might use it to consider what history and stories we are holding so that we might loosen our grip on the history and stories that are actually holding us back. We might use this time as a way to tell new stories, honoring some pieces of tradition while also honoring truth. We might work to be in better relationship with those we love and those we try earnestly to love. I can't think of a better way to invite Christ back into the world than by trying to practice what he taught. Recognizing our oneness among all peoples, our oneness as strangers and neighbors always. I have learned to love Advent and its practices. And y'all, I have been so angry. I have been for months. I'm sure many of you are too, even coming out of Thanksgiving. I'm a lot angry because everything, the unceasing pandemic for one, we have all been working so hard to keep safe for more than a year and a half, and other people can't be bothered to look out for anyone but themselves, claiming bodily autonomy in the same dang breath when bodily autonomy is being assaulted once again by a number of states for anyone who is pregnant. And there are people being assaulted and killed because they are Black, Indigenous, queer, trans, disabled. And there's another variant coming. So then I'm also angry about all of the previous presidential administration's decisions for not doing anything to minimize the damage from this virus. I'm angry with the number of governors and other elected officials who deny how serious it is. Remember, I'm in Florida. And I'm angry about how so many places have been gerrymandered and voter suppression is an active campaign to disenfranchise, especially those who might vote for change. I'm furious, in all honesty. It's always there just below the surface. And I'm tired. Just living in a pandemic is exhausting, let alone trying to work. There's no shortage of things to be angry about right now. I mean, if you're paying attention. I'm tired of being furious, and I'm tired of people's behavior that only serves themselves. And frankly, even the idea that their behavior serves themselves is a stretch, because if we hurt or harm each other or ourselves, how do we not ultimately hurt or harm ourselves that much more? I read a handful of articles and thought pieces as I was reflecting on this service. The Quiet Rage of the Responsible by Paul Krugman in the New York Times, for example, as well as editorials like, as a doctor in a COVID unit, I'm running out of compassion for the unvaccinated, get the shot, by Dr. Anita Sarkar in the LA Times. And anger is only making trauma of pandemic worse. We should all try being more constructive, by Mary Lou Johannick in the Ohio Capital Journal. The Parable of the Shopping Cart by Alida Payne, among others. Surely I trusted I would find something, but not one piece I read had the answers for me and my anger. It seems like everyone is just tired and angry. I was heartened to be reminded that surveys indicate that although the vaccinated and responsible are not the ones making headlines, we are the majority. Also noting my deep anger with our journalism and news media and how it is driven by attention seeking and not giving a healthy lay of the land description. Not all news is fair, healthful, or helpful. See, no shortage of things to be angry about. I don't think it's fair to say that anger is making the trauma worse. I'm angry and constructive. It turns out that's not helping as much as that author thought that it might. There were no answers anywhere I looked. So I was left with my continued angry self. Great. But I'm a minister, and one of the things that goes with that is helping people make sense of their lives and the world. And I took a minute to actually think about my anger, righteous and appropriate as it may be. I took a breath and leaned back to my chaplaincy training and work. I remembered that anger often masks sadness, or as poet Naira Waheed wrote, anger is often grief that has been silent too long. Oh, I'm sad and grieving because the world is on fire. Everything is hard. I'm tired. We don't have any idea when we might be on the other side of all the gajillion things that are horrible right now, assuming we will get to the other side. The second year of my chaplaincy training, I spent working with veterans who had dementia and other cognitive impairments, as well as the medical and support staff who worked to care for them and their families. I remember how clearly the social worker would say to families and new staff, students, and others, that anger is an expression of unmet needs. This often goes hand in hand with anger being expressed as a way to feel powerful, to have a sense of control and empowerment. So I have unmet needs and feel powerless and like I have no control. Being able to name this for me is one way I move from feelings and emotions to my mind, body, and spirit. It helps me soften myself and gives me space not to react as much so that I can think and be outside of and around those feelings and emotions. Feelings and emotions are good things. They help us know things that we might not otherwise. Our brain telling us to look out or that we're safe or all sorts of other things. But when we get stuck in our feelings and emotions and they become thoughts and begin impacting our relationships and our lives because we structure everything around them, it's not healthy. And I recognize it's probably been causing me some extra stress and hurt. I think we're all more prone to this kind of thing during this pandemic, which is both the uncontrolled spread of a highly effective virus and also a prolonged trauma that we're all experiencing. Trauma is not dissimilar to mental illnesses like depression, which collapse our window of experience and possibility. I know my own depression at times has caused hyper-focusing and a distinct tunnel vision that prevents me from being able to appreciate a full spectrum of emotions or thoughts. Essentially, I become trapped in myself. Trauma often acts in similar ways. Trauma, depression, and anger also feed into us versus them making and the othering that goes with it, which as a Unitarian Universalist is often rather antithesis to who we are, except that boundaries, covenants, and consent are important, and we do hold people responsible for their actions. And as I reflected, I remembered two more things. That truthfully, the only person I can save is myself, and that the most effective work I can do with people is with people who are closer in mindset to me, as well as the movable middle. People on the other extreme are not going to change their minds based on anything I've said or done. Our news media and politicians and other things have caused so much division that those chasms are just too great. Sometimes even when we are in relationship with those on the other side. And ultimately, truly, there really is no one but us. We're all in this together, whether that's the choice we would have made or not. My anger is not only because I wish others would protect me, but also themselves. I've come to realize that I need to practice some forgiveness, and that forgiveness isn't just about letting things go, seeking reconciliation, or even about making peace. It's also about not devoting your energy to things over which you have no control. It's about holding history and stories, but not letting them hold you, and being open to life's gifts. And so this year, I am embracing possibility by first forgiving myself. I'm taking some deep breaths and noticing that there is more space in me, and noticing the sweetness of that which isn't anger or sadness, because hope and joy and gratitude and contentment and curiosity and possibility live here too. Part of me is not ready to let go of my anger, and I don't think it would be healthy to let it all go. I mean, the world is on fire. But I am ready to let go of some of it, to steward myself better. This Advent, this holiday season for many, I invite all of us to embrace possibilities of the world as it may yet be. My colleague, the Reverend Joanna Crawford, wrote these words, which I offer as a prayer for all of us. And the day came when finally they put down their burdens and said, "That's enough of that." The moment was full of sorrow, but also relief. Arms exhausted from carrying the burden of trying to entice, persuade people to be more compassionate, wise. They continued their own work of building a world more just, but were freer, lighter. The responsibility for others' thoughts was gone. They taught through their actions for anyone willing to read their lives. You can see them now at work in the daytime, singing and laughing in the evenings, Ask for their views and they'll give you a mysterious smile. You can join them, you know, but you cannot fight them, for they just continue on their way, doing the work that is theirs to do. They do not seek your agreement, your approbation. When they encounter an obstacle, they find a way over it. I have never seen people who worked so hard look so at peace.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we keep in our hearts until we meet again.
Our closing words today come from Jean Harrison Newyar, who has written in The Gift of Faith. In the lore of ancient China, there's a story of a philosopher who was asked, "Where is the road called hope?" He replied, "It does not exist, but as people move forward upon it, it comes into being." I invite you to continue moving forward on this road, this path, this journey called hope, with your anger and joy, generosity and gratitude with me.